So, material objects, which just means physical objects, physical things. Here's a material object. Get it on screen, my coffee cup. Here's a material object, my glasses. Here's a material object, my body. Okay, all of them are physical, material things. And let's think back to Russell. One of the things that he said is that the existence of such things, material objects, is an inference that we make on the basis of what we do actually experience immediately, which is sense data through our sensations. One of the, I think, undeniable outcomes of Russell's appearance in reality is that we never experience a physical object, a material object, directly. We always experience it mediately, that is, through something else, and that is sense data. Those are the things of which we are immediately aware, directly aware. If the external world of material things exists, our knowledge of it is inferential, that is, on the basis of something else and not direct and immediate. I don't think that Moore goes into that, but it may be that Moore kind of believes that too. However, Moore believes very firmly that our common sense view of material objects is pretty sound, pretty reliable. And what is our common sense view of material objects? I'm looking at page 9. He says this: "This, therefore, is one thing which we believe with regard to the relation between consciousness, which is thinking, sensations, perceptions, and material objects. The first of these is this: we believe that we are at certain times conscious of certain material objects. That is, that we're not just conscious of our sense data, but we're somehow conscious of those external material objects as well. We see and feel and think of them. But we believe with the utmost certainty that these material objects can and do continue to exist even when we are not conscious of them. That is, that they have an independent existence. We are, for instance, at this moment seeing certain material objects in this room, but we believe that they will continue to exist even when we have all gone away and the room is shut up for the night and no one is seeing them. If I leave a room for 5 minutes in which a fire is burning and then come back and find it burning still, I assume that it has been burning all the while I was away." Very common sense, right? But Russell suggested that common sense may not be the whole story, right? "I assume that it's been burning the whole time while I was away and when no one was seeing it or feeling its heat, just as much as when I was there to see it. We all, I think, constantly assume with regard to material objects that they are, in this sense, wholly independent of our consciousness of them." We see how complicated that question actually is from reading Russell, at least. Certainly there are some aspects of the thing which are not independent. Russell said the color and shape are essentially subjective qualities. That is, they're not inherent objective qualities of the thing. But something, perhaps, is independent of our consciousness. That is, the thing doesn't cease to... What Moore seems to be saying is that the thing does not cease to exist when I cease to perceive it. "We may indeed say, of all material objects," he continues, "that they have 3 characteristics. One, they are quite a different sort of thing from acts of consciousness." This is what we would call his dualism. And when we read Descartes, we'll talk about that dualism. That is, that on the one hand, there are material objects, and there are a certain type of being. On the other hand, there are ideas or mental contents, or what Moore calls mental acts of consciousness, which also exist, but must exist in an entirely different way, because they're not physical, right? So dualism really means, metaphysically, twoism, that there's one sort of thing, and then there's another sort of thing. There's the physical, and then there's the mental. So of material objects, he says, we all believe they are quite a different sort of thing from acts of consciousness, and 2, they are all of them at any given time situated somewhere or other in space. So all material objects are somewhere in space, where it's very difficult to say that Even though he says that mental acts of consciousness are always attached to a body and so are in space, that's very difficult to conceive of, mental acts being in space. They seem to be associated or dependent upon a body, but to say that they are in space in the way the body is very difficult. And 3, they have this property which I've just mentioned, namely that they are a sort of thing which exists when we are not conscious of it, just as much as when we are. So he believes that we believe that material objects are real, that they are independent of us, that they continue to exist when we are not perceiving them, and other things about that too. Now, there are all sorts of questions I'd like to ask more about material objects and about mental acts of consciousness, exactly how he thinks that we should think of them, describe them. But given this common sense, this account of the common sense answer to the question, what exists in the universe, he said that he's interested in giving this common sense account partly because he's interested in showing how the actual views of philosophers have differed radically from this common sense. And remember, he has characterized common sense as what we all believe, or what most of us believe. So, in a way, well, what is he going to do? Is it criticism of philosophy? Is it showing how philosophy undermines common sense? We'll have to see.